Aliens mocked, Earth's old tanks, until humanity revealed their real power. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Chen wheeled in the holographic display. Around the curved table sat representatives from 15 different species, each more technologically advanced than the last. The Zithrians with their crystalline exoskeletons, the Morphians who existed partly in higher dimensions, the Keltorans whose ships could bend space itself, and then there was Earth, the newest member, the Primitives. Chen activated the display, showing humanity's proposed contribution to the Joint Defense Force. The image flickered to life, revealing a squat, treaded vehicle with a long barrel protruding from its turret. The Zithrian delegate's translator crackled with what could only be laughter. "This is your war machine? It rolls on the ground like a slug." More laughter rippled through the chamber. The Morphian representative phased slightly out of reality, a sign of their amusement. "We have plasma cannons that can vaporize mountains. We have shields that bend light itself. And you bring us this?" Ambassador Chen remained calm, her hands folded on the table. She had expected this reaction. "This is our M1A2 Abrams main battle tank. We propose contributing 2 armored divisions to the defense of Rigel 4. Rigel 4? The Keltoran commander's antennae twitched. "That world is being invaded by the Ravagers as we speak. You want to send these museum pieces against the most feared warriors in 3 sectors?" "Yes," Chen said simply. The council erupted in protest. The Ravagers had swept through 6 systems in as many months. Their troops wore personal shields that deflected energy weapons. Their infantry moved with enhanced speed and strength. Conventional galactic forces had barely slowed them down. "Your ground vehicles are obsolete," the Zithrian insisted. "They use chemical propellants to fire solid projectiles. They are powered by burning fossil fuels. They cannot even fly. How do you expect these relics to survive 5 minutes against Ravager forces?" Chen smiled slightly. "With respect, perhaps you should ask why humanity never stopped using them." The Council voted to allow Earth's participation, but only because they were desperate. Rigel 4 was a strategic world, and they were running out of options. If the humans wanted to throw away their soldiers in antique machines, so be it. 3 weeks later, the human transport ships entered orbit around Rigel 4. The planet's surface was a nightmare of urban warfare. The Ravagers had landed in force, their troops pushing through the cities with brutal efficiency. Galactic forces fell back block by block, their energy weapons barely scratching the enemy's shields. Colonel James Marcus stood in the command tent, studying the battlefield maps. His 2nd Armored Division had just finished unloading from the transport ships, 68 tanks, along with support vehicles and infantry. The Galactic commanders had given him the worst sector, a bombed-out industrial zone where 3 previous counterattacks had failed. "They expect us to fail," his executive officer said quietly. Marcus nodded. "They don't understand. That's fine. The Ravagers don't understand either." The alien commanders watched through orbital feeds as the human tanks rumbled into position. The vehicles moved slowly compared to hovercraft, their treads grinding through rubble and debris. When Ravager forces appeared, the aliens expected to see a quick slaughter. The first Ravager squad encountered a lone Abrams tank at an intersection. 10 warriors in powered armor, each one fast enough to dodge plasma bolts, strong enough to tear through steel doors. They moved to surround the tank, their weapons charging. The Abrams fired. The round wasn't energy. It wasn't plasma. It was a 120 million depleted uranium penetrator traveling at over a mile per second. The kinetic energy alone was devastating, but the round had been specifically designed to defeat advanced armor through sheer physical force. The lead Ravager's personal shield flickered and died, overwhelmed by the solid projectile. The warrior's armor crumpled like paper. The round continued through 2 more Ravagers before embedding itself in a concrete wall. The remaining Ravagers scattered, but they had nowhere to hide. The tank's machine guns opened up, 50 caliber rounds tearing through the urban environment. Unlike energy weapons that dissipated against shields, each bullet carried physical mass and momentum. The Ravagers' shields, designed to deflect energy, struggled against the kinetic impacts. More tanks rolled into the sector. The Ravagers adapted quickly, trying to flank and disable the vehicles. But the humans had been fighting with tanks for over a century. They moved in coordinated groups, infantry supporting armor, each tank covering its partner's blind spots. A Ravager lieutenant managed to reach a tank, leaping onto its hull with enhanced strength. He raised his energy blade to strike at what he assumed was a weak point. The tank's crew was ready. The commander emerged from the hatch with a shotgun and fired at point-blank range. Buckshot scattered across the Ravager's shield, each pellet a separate kinetic impact. The shield generator overloaded, and the second blast caught the warrior directly. In orbit, the galactic commanders watched in stunned silence as the human tanks pushed forward. Block by block, street by street, the ancient-looking machines ground through Ravager positions that had held for weeks. "How?" the Morphean commander whispered. "Their weapons are so primitive. Just metal and explosives." The Zithrian analyst had been studying the human tactics. "That's exactly why they work. Look at the energy signatures. The Ravager shields are calibrated to deflect directed energy weapons. They're designed to disperse heat and electromagnetic radiation. But solid projectiles? The shields can't redirect that much kinetic energy efficiently. But surely the Ravagers can adapt. How? Their entire military doctrine is built around energy warfare, their armor, their shields, their tactics, all optimized for a threat these humans simply ignore." The analyst pulled up a tactical display. "And look at the vehicles themselves. No complex energy systems to disrupt, no plasma conduits to rupture, just mechanical systems, heavy armor, and guns that fire metal." On the ground, Colonel Marcus was coordinating the advance. His tanks had broken through the Ravager front lines and were now exploiting the gap. The aliens had superior mobility in open terrain, but in urban warfare the tanks' raw firepower and protection proved decisive. A Ravager heavy weapons team set up on a rooftop, their anti-vehicle plasma cannon capable of destroying any galactic armor. They fired, the superheated bolt striking an Abrams directly on its turret face. The tank rocked from the impact. Armor ablated away, composite layers doing exactly what they were designed to do: dissipate heat and absorb energy. The plasma burned through the outer layers, but stopped at the inner armor belt. The tank's turret swiveled, and a high explosive round demolished the entire rooftop. "Damage report," Marcus called over the radio. "Outer armor compromised, sir. All systems green. We're combat effective." That was another thing the aliens didn't understand. Human tanks were designed to take hits and keep fighting. No shields to fail catastrophically. Just layers of composite armor, reactive tiles, and a crew that trained to operate damaged vehicles. The Ravager commander on Rigel 4 found himself facing a problem he'd never encountered before. His warriors were faster, stronger, better equipped than the humans. But the human tanks were like ancient siege engines, unstoppable and relentless. His energy weapons couldn't penetrate their armor efficiently. His shields couldn't stop their solid projectiles effectively. He tried to call for orbital support, but the galactic fleet had finally found their courage. With human forces breaking the Ravager lines on the ground, the orbital battle turned in the defenders' favor. After 72 hours of continuous combat, the Ravager forces began to retreat. They had never encountered an enemy that fought this way. An enemy that used simple, brutal physics instead of elegant energy manipulation. They had no counter-tactics prepared, no weapons optimized for this threat. Colonel Marcus stood atop his command tank, watching the enemy withdrawal. Around him, the industrial sector was a wasteland of rubble and burning vehicles, most of them Ravager. His division had taken casualties, but they'd accomplished what 3 galactic task forces could not. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Chen stood before them again, but this time, nobody was laughing. "We don't understand," the Morphean representative admitted. "Your tanks are centuries old in design. They're slow, they're mechanical. They burn fossil fuels, for the love of all that's logical. How did they succeed where our advanced forces failed?" Chen gestured to the tactical displays showing the Battle of Rigel 4. "Because sometimes old doesn't mean obsolete. The galaxy moved toward energy weapons because they're efficient and powerful, but you all began to optimize for the same threat. Your shields defend against energy. Your armor disperses heat. Your tactics assume everyone fights the same way." She pulled up a schematic of an Abrams tank. "We kept our kinetic weapons because they work. A tank fires a solid slug of metal at hypersonic speeds. No complex physics to disrupt. No energy signature to track before impact. Just mass and velocity. It's simple. It's reliable. And against an enemy who hasn't faced kinetic weapons in generations, it's devastating." The Zithrian delegate's crystalline form seemed to dim with embarrassment. "We called them primitive." "They are primitive," Chen agreed. "That's their strength. You can't hack a mechanical firing system. You can't disrupt a diesel engine with an electromagnetic pulse. Our tanks might be old-fashioned, but they're also robust, repairable in the field, and effective against enemies who've never had to defend against physical projectiles." The Keltoran commander leaned forward. "Earth's military doctrine? It's not based on energy weapons at all, is it?" "We use energy weapons where appropriate," Chen said. "But our core doctrine, our tanks and artillery and kinetic firearms, we never abandoned them, because we learned something in thousands of years of warfare on Earth. Reliability beats sophistication, simplicity beats complexity, and sometimes the old ways work best." The council chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then the Morphean representative spoke. "We owe humanity an apology, and we have a question. Would Earth be willing to train galactic forces in kinetic warfare? To share your doctrine?" Chen smiled. "We'd be honored. But I should warn you, tank crews take years to train properly. This isn't something you can program into a computer or learn from a database. It requires experience, practice, and a willingness to get your hands dirty with grease and gunpowder." "We're willing to learn," the Zithrian said. "And perhaps we should be more careful about dismissing things simply because they're old." News of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy. The species that had been mocked for bringing museum pieces to a modern war had proven that technology wasn't everything. Other worlds began requesting human military advisors, eager to learn about kinetic warfare and combined arms tactics. The Ravagers, meanwhile, faced a crisis. Their entire military-industrial complex was geared toward energy-based warfare. Retooling would take years and cost fortunes. Suddenly, the tide of their conquest had been stopped not by superior technology, but by a species that refused to forget how to throw rocks. Really, really fast rocks. In a bar on the orbital station above Rigel 4, Colonel Marcus shared a drink with several galactic officers who'd observed the battle. A Keltoran gunner raised his glass in a toast. "To Earth's tanks, ancient, primitive, and absolutely terrifying." Marcus grinned. "We have a saying back home. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our tanks have been killing things efficiently for over 200 years. Why would we stop now?" The galactic officers laughed, but it was a respectful laugh this time. They had learned an important lesson about humanity. These newcomers didn't have the most advanced technology or the most elegant solutions, but they had something perhaps more valuable: the wisdom to know that just because something is old doesn't mean it's obsolete, and the stubbornness to keep using what works, no matter how primitive it might seem. As the celebration continued, Ambassador Chen received a message from Earth Command. More tank divisions were being prepared for deployment. Other species were placing orders for Earth-manufactured kinetic weapons, and the Ravagers had requested a ceasefire for the first time in their expansion. All because humanity had never forgotten a simple truth. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the most advanced one. Sometimes it's just a very large gun that throws metal very, very fast, and nobody laughed at human tanks anymore.